kind of hit the nail on the head there where you said, talked about our background. So 20 years in the people space. I grew up in the industry. I love HR. I love everything about it. I love the impact that it can have on organizations. And I think for me, it was seeing a lot of burnout in our industry. It was seeing what should be the most effective and efficient function of an entire business, because it's the one that touches every employee practically every day, just not having the right tools, the right support, the right resource. And so it really was about how do we make HR faster, smarter, more human.
Welcome to Foundations, a podcast where I chat with creative and tech founders as they build amazing companies. My goal here is to find out the stories, the wins, the losses, and the reason why they started the whole thing. I'm Johan from Tension Studio, and I hope you enjoy. Let's begin. Today, I'm joined by Kareem, co-founder and CEO of Humaneer, a company using AI to help HR teams work smarter, more strategically. And I'm getting this from your LinkedIn bio, so hopefully I'm getting it quite right. So staying focused on what really matters most, which is people. So you have 20 years experience leading HR teams globally. You've seen firsthand what complex and time-consuming the work can get. So I think, from what I understand, you're kind of building a platform to help HR professionals take their time back, right, and make their impact bigger. Reading between the lines, potentially a little bit. But Careen, welcome to Foundations. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Johan. It's nice to be here.
So I guess we'll start with Humaneer. Like, what led you to build it, and I suppose what problem were you seeing that you felt wasn't being solved?
Yeah, so you kind of hit the nail on the head there where you said, talked about our background. So 20 years in the people space. I grew up in the industry. I love HR. I love everything about it. I love the impact that it can have on organizations. And I think for me, it was seeing a lot of burnout in our industry. It was seeing what should be the most effective and efficient function of an entire business, because it's the one that touches every employee practically every day, just not having the right tools, the right support, the right resource. And so it really was about how do we make HR faster, smarter, more human, and really looking at the future of HR and the future of work. I think that we are entering a new era of HR, and for us, Humaneer is not just a product, it's a movement. It's not just about giving sort of HR time, tool, support to lead. It's about empowering them to do that. It's about being with them on that journey, and that was really important for me. And I suppose it comes down to a piece of a legacy as well, where it's like, I want to leave the industry better than when I started in it. And myself and my co-founders were all really passionate about that. So I think for me, it's all been around making the industry that we love better.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I guess, do you think there was a moment where you thought, hey, I kind of have to build this myself? Like, was there a pivotal moment, or did you kind of like got sick of it? How did that kick off?
Yeah, no, look, I think for me, when I finished up my last permanent role in HR, I think, I had a young son, and I was tired. I'd worked at, two really fast moving startups, absolutely phenomenal experiences. But again, listening to friends who were in the industry who were saying, I'm so burnt out, I'm so exhausted. And I took some time out with my son. He was about 18 months at that stage, because I hadn't taken a lot of parental leave. And it just suddenly dawned on me. I was like, I need to support HR. I felt like that was my mission. And that's where Humaneer started. And believe me, it did not start where it is now. It was going to be a support app for HR, like really simple, a place that HR could go and get support from others. But that escalated somewhat over the last 2 years.
Yeah, wow. And I suppose, which was going to lead me to my second question on that, like, was there something surprising that you learned when you first launched the first version of Humaneer? Was there something, as you did that, did you learn something and you thought, hey, there's more under the surface here?
Yeah, look, there was a few things. I think for us, we realised that HR are so time poor that would they actually have the capacity to go onto an app that would help their growth and their connections and ultimately their career. And we realized that we probably wouldn't have used an app when we were in HR because we just didn't have the time or capacity. And then we also had some really interesting experiences in the build as well. That was highly frustrating. Um, and when we started to see AI come to market and become much more available, commercially, that was where we saw this opportunity to really change the structure of HR and the roles in HR. And that's when we saw sort of that glimmer in the horizon where we were like, this could really, really move the needle for our industry. And we became obsessed with AI and how does it and how can it solve the problems that we have in our industry today, where we don't have enough time, we have clunky tech tools, we don't have the capacity to lead strategically. So that was probably the pinnacle moment, was when we started to see AI come into the market, because we saw rapidly how our offering could change.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, AI is a huge unlock for time, but also if done well, right? And I suppose, is there an understanding of the customer? Being in HR before, like you worked in HR, so you kind of know the pains, but does that kind of change a little bit as you're building a product for HR? Does that change the way you approach things, or are you kind of building things that you wished existed? You mentioned that was kind of
Yeah.
a dissonance there.
Yeah, look, I think initially we were building what we wished we'd had in HR, but again, that comes down to that perception versus sort of, we have a perception of what people need, but
Mm.
until we actually get in and find out, then that's just it's massive assumptions. And so we actually symbiotically, while we were building Mac, which is our product, we built our community as well. And so we've stayed really close to potential customers and our colleagues while we've built this. We've built it with them. We've got channels in our community where people give us feedback on tiny design things on the
Yeah.
platform and UI, and it's kind of the way that it works and what it does. So for us, it's always been about building with HR, for HR, by HR. It's never been about us sitting in our offices at home or in a co-working space and building something without input.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've seen that done really well, where you actually build a community first and leading with value for the community. So you always, I mean, the products may not be correct or the best, but since you're always listening and getting that quick feedback,
Yeah.
how do you open that channel? What does that look like? Do you have weekly chats with them? Do you show them the product? What does that kind of community feedback look like?
Yeah, so look, it's across a number of things really. So in our community, we've actually got ambassadors now in our community, and we are really close with the with our ambassadors, in the sense of we will throw things around branding, around UI, around usability, and everybody jumps on and gives us feedback. We also did alpha and beta testing as well, where we had sort of dedicated channels in the community for people who were part of those cohorts. And so for us, we also pick up the phone to our community members, like
Mm.
we've got
What's
really
a
great.
phone, by the way?
I know, what is a phone? What is a phone? One of those old things that we used to press the buttons of and talk to. But we stay really close to our community. First off, because we really, really love our community. It's such a special place for HR professionals, but also because we learn more in a call of 10 minutes with somebody about our
Yeah.
product than we do in 4 hours sitting, playing with it ourselves. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah, you suddenly have this user case where you're like, oh, that's really obvious. Like, why did we not think someone would use it for this? And that happens in the first 2 hours of them playing with the product. And suddenly it's like, okay, it can actually do more than we thought it could because it's got a different use case now. So things like that as a founder are like super exciting. And that's kind of, you want more of the good stuff like that. So you're like, I want more people to see this. We want more feedback.
Yeah, amazing. Did you feel like there needed to be a shift in, maybe not ego is not the word, but like you starting with this high conviction of knowing what people need, but as you build, you kind of get that feedback. Oh, maybe it's not quite that, not quite that. Was that an easy thing to be quite open, being a people person? Maybe not, but yeah, I mean, tell me
Yeah,
what
look,
that
I
was like.
don't. It's never easy when someone tells you your child is not pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fundamentally it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
but I think we had to get really used to feedback really fast. And I think for us as well is we don't see the feedback as being personal. We see it as being growth. I think for us, feedback's growth. I think one of the hardest things that I've found is coming from an industry that I knew really well was I was a conscious competent in HR. Like, you know, I could go into a company, I would know the role of HR, so I would know what I was doing. As a founder, at the beginning you're such like an unconscious incompetent, like you just literally do not know what you do not know, and everything's really fun and exciting, and you're like full of energy and like we're going to build this and it's going to be amazing. What I have found really challenging is as soon as it starts kicking in how much you don't know and how much you need to know right now to get to the next stage, that's where for me that really uncomfortable happens, because it is overwhelming. Because you know, one day you might realize you suddenly need to understand integrations for certain platforms, you need to learn how to use different platforms, then you've got your accounting over on this side, and you've got, you know, perhaps you're fundraising or doing something else, and you feel like you don't know very much. And to come from a place where you were accomplished to going to not knowing very much at all, that's a really challenging and uncomfortable space. So now, you know, myself and my co-founders, we totally embrace that, and we kind of make a joke about it now. We're like, oh, here we go, uncomfortable. And so we are feeling that at the moment, you know, because we are getting to that stage where Mac is being used by, you know, community members. We're about to take Mac out to the wild. And so there's a lot when you look at that, because it's not just about, everything up until now has been about the build, you know, it's been about getting that product sorted. And then suddenly when you think about going out into the wild, you're like, well, what does the onboarding look like? What does the customer experience look like? And then it's this whole new thing that you're going to have to learn. So I think, yeah, it's all these little moments. That's where I get uncomfortable. Feedback feels like a walk in the park now
Yeah,
compared
right,
to some
right.
of these
Yeah.
feelings. Yeah.
You're well versed in feedback now. Yeah, how does that show up? How does that show up? Is it physical, emotional? I think you're quite lucky in that you have co-founders as well, right? So you're able to kind of talk that through. But what does that look like if you wake up one day knowing, hey, I really don't know anything here? How how does that play out for you?
Yeah, for me, I've had to put a lot of things in place personally just to kind of manage that feeling.
Mm.
Things like walking, I do a huge amount of walking before my day with my son. Things like meditation, I meditate because I do feel for me personally, when I'm in that state of ambiguity and it's quite intense, that can show up as anxiety sometimes. So it's for me, it's been putting things in place that help mitigate that. The next thing I do is I pick up the phone to one of my mentors and I'm like, I do not know this. Who can I speak to? How can you help me? I need to build my knowledge as fast as possible. And I am renowned for going on LinkedIn and looking up subject matter experts and just DMing them and saying,
Yeah,
I'm
wow.
in a really uncomfortable place right now. Can you jump on a call? And honestly, 95% of the time, they've been so gracious and have given me 30, 40 minutes of their time to chat things through.
Wow. And why do you think that is? Is it vulnerability, or is it do you think people want to see other people succeed, or is it just your approach? Yeah, I'd be keen to hear about that.
So I think it's probably a little bit of all of them. But I think as a founder, like I know when somebody comes to me and asks a question, I'm always super helpful because, you know, gratitude and paying it forward is such a big part of why we've been able to do what we have. That you want that for other people as well. So I feel like there's kind of an unwritten rule in Founderland where you're like, yeah, somebody helped me over here. I now have that knowledge. Someone's come to me for that. Let me pass it on to you, and then you can, you know, carry the torch for a while and pass it on to someone else. So I do feel there's that kind of camaraderie as well.
Yeah, yeah, nice. And is that, and I suppose that in-person kinds of startup meetups would help. Um,
Yeah.
Online communities as well, I assume. Are there any you're part of that you feel like, that I've gotten heaps of value from this, or at least, emotional help even?
Yeah, yeah, there's a few. So Aussie Startup group on Slack is fantastic. That's Megan that runs that. There's also I'm part of an AWS WhatsApp group from the cohort we were in with AWS. That's super useful. And also we were part of an accelerator, and that was with the Canberra Innovation Network, and I co-work there, and I literally can walk in there and find somebody who I can
Yeah.
speak to. It's
Yeah. Nice.
so valuable. And we go to quite a lot of events and things where it's just about speaking to people and being really honest about where you are right now, because it's it's super fun being a founder. It's probably the best job I've ever had. But also you've got to be super realistic about the fact that if you keep telling people that everything's fine and everything's amazing, you're not
Yeah.
going to get the growth and the help that you need. So for me, I'm super honest with
Yeah.
where I'm at.
That's amazing. Yeah, I do see. Yeah, the conversations I've had with founders, they have that uh, insight as well. That I think, yeah, whilst you feel like you're doing it alone, if you open up just a little bit, you realize everyone else is kind of there to help you out as well.
Yeah.
Um, is there, maybe just to pivot slightly on the actual product? You mentioned, as you're learning from customers, knowing what to build, AI being a huge part of that as well. Are you in a position to kind of know what the next quarter, month, or even like 12 months looks like? Do you have a vision of where this is going?
Yeah, we've got a roadmap, um, which I'm sure we'll laugh at in 6 months' time, because AI is moving so fast that our roadmap's moving really quickly as well. We know eventually where we want to be. It is a little bit like we are climbing Everest. We know where the summit is. We've packed our bags, we've got our equipment, we're heading to base camp, but we've still got quite a big climb. And I think there's lots of routes that we could take to get to that summit. And I think that the technology will very much display and inform which route we take to the summit.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you think that decision making is based on? Is there budget and resources play into that? Is it
There's
time?
always
Is it?
budget and resources. um, yeah, look, it will budget, resources, technology capability. It will all play into how fast we climb, and perhaps some of the decision trees on that climb as well.
Yeah, yeah. But you have quite high confidence. I think it sounds like the way that you're speaking to your customers all the time, you're getting that feedback loop quite tight. So you kind
Yeah.
of have that knocked out. But yeah, it's fair. Yeah, you directionally you feel like you know where you're going, but there's still kind of like the middle missing part of the map that you're still traversing through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like what we're finding really, really exciting is I think that where we see our summit in 12 months' time, it might be a different mountain because the tech is moving so
Gotcha.
fast. And,
Yeah.
what Mac is able to do today compared to last week even is miles ahead. So you just think, well, can we even envisage where this product's going to go right now? And that's actually, I think we're just limited by our own imaginations right now with Mac.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Uh, yeah, who can tell the future with AI entering the picture here? It's
Yeah.
amazing, amazing stuff. So, is there, we've talked a bit about, things that you've learned being a founder, things that you are ready to suck at, ready to be better at, and outreaching people for help. If there's one thing or a couple of things maybe you can tell other founders earlier in their journey, what would you say that you've not already said already?
Get customer feedback early.
Yeah.
Like we we made that mistake at the beginning where our first app, we spent so much time getting the perfect images and the perfect design, and we didn't test it. And
Mm,
that was such a great learning early on, was don't build anything that's not tested. Whether it's a concept, whether it's a conversations, know before you spend any money that people are going to buy what you're building.
yeah, yeah. And how do you do that then, I suppose? Like if you spent all that time building a product, getting that perfect, and it not working, that would hurt, obviously. What was the next product? What was the next feature that you shipped? How did you approach that?
Yeah, so that first app never got to market really. And so we then tried to build another one, but that was when we started to see AI come in, and we were like, let's completely pivot this. We need a tool, not a place for people to just go. We need something tangible, so the community really helps build that connection and growth and support. But actually operationally, what does that look like, because that's what's going to move the needle. And so that's what we did. But I think if we, I can't say, because our journey was so important for us to get to where we are
Yeah,
today,
yeah,
and I think that we learned so much on that journey. And I think as a founder, that's part of it, isn't it? It's like, just embrace the journey, because it's
yeah.
your journey and you're going to get there. But what I always say is, and I say this to my mentor at Sebring, is I don't want to make the same mistakes that other founders have made. I want to find
Mm,
new ones that I can just royally mess up
yeah,
and then move on from. So I think for me, as a founder, I would say surround yourself with people that can help you avoid the mistakes they've made, but you're going to find new ones.
yeah,
But just to embrace that. And I think the more support you have around you, the more chance you've got at success.
yeah, yeah. You're just hanging out with a bunch of failures, really, like in another way, but you're failing together. But I think
Yeah,
you're right, though. When you're building something, you are building two things. I feel like you're building your product, but also yourself in a way. And
that's such a good way. That is such a good way to put it. Like, I think we were talking about this the other day in Humaneer, and we were saying we don't recognize ourselves now compared to 6 months ago, because we've had to go on such a growth journey, not just building a product, but actually individually and personally and collectively as co-founders. I think
mm,
that just hit the nail on the head there.
yeah, yeah, it's no, it's quite humbling, but also, like I said, quite fun. Uh,
Mm.
Before we jump off, maybe I just give you an easier question. Is there a tool that you can't live without? And maybe it has nothing to do with human era work, but just in general, something.
Oh, yes. So Claude, Claude
Yeah,
AI from
tell me more.
Anthropic. I absolutely love it. I have set up projects and co-pilots for everything. I think it's a phenomenal piece of kit. I do use ChatGPT as well, but I just really like Claude. But I use quite a lot of AI. That I think if I was to sum it up, I would just say I couldn't live without AI anymore.
Yeah, well, you're all in
Yeah,
on
all
AI.
in, all
Yeah,
in. Yeah,
that's what AI stands for. Apparently now everyone's just fully committing to it. Like
yeah.
I agree. I think I embarrassingly talk to ChatGPT quite a lot, and but they're getting smarter, and but also getting a lot more insight on humans. I think it's a nice way to spitball with someone.
Yeah, I mean, Chatty got a little bit too familiar,
Oh
and
yeah,
as I said a few weeks ago, I was a bit like,
you know a bit too much.
calm down, Chatty." It was practically high-fiving me out the computer at one stage every time I wrote something. Do you use a lot of AI?
Yes, I mean there's kind of they're quite separated in a way, and I do want to get to a point where they're all talking to each other, and
Mm.
there's a learning curve there. But yeah, definitely there are pockets of moments where I spitball an idea with a chat GPT or a Claude, and then bring that back into a larger picture. But yeah, I think it's hard to avoid, but also quite fun, really fun.
Yeah,
So yeah,
super fun. One that I'm really keen to get on board with is Whisper Flow. Have you heard of that?
no, not yet. Tell me more about
So
that.
yeah, so I really want it. It won't seem to download on my laptop at the moment. So I'm becoming very frustrated because everyone else seems to have it. But you can just dictate your emails. So it's supposed
Ah,
to be
right.
really powerful. Yeah,
There you go. That's a good tip. I'll test that out.
yeah, definitely.
Well,
And we're
good.
all hanging out for Operator over here from
That's right. That's right.
OpenAI. So excited. I actually watched a YouTube on it and I got so excited about trialing it. And then I went on and it's like, it's not available in your region. And when you're just like, oh, it was
Yeah.
like a dagger to my heart. It really
Just
was.
let me at it. Let me at
Mm.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Like you said, in 6 months' time, we won't know ourselves or even our ways of working. It's pretty wild time to be a founder.
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time. I think that as a founder, we've now got access to tools that we wouldn't have had access to before. And that just increases our capability to do things that we haven't been able to do before.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. I keep talking about AI for ages. Love the conversation. Really appreciate you sharing your journey. Looking forward to seeing where Humaneer is going. Can you share a bit more about where we can find more about Humaneer and yourself?
Yep, so you can go to our website, which is www.humaneer.app. It's a legacy piece from the app days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Careen Matthews.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and
Thank
hope to
you.
see many more failures along the way in the nicest possible way.
Absolutely. Thanks so
Take
much.
care.
It was nice to chat.
Bye.
Take care.